President Trump just signed this new bill into law, setting the legal framework for a new form of U.S. currency. It's a better, more technologically advanced version of the U.S. dollar that I'm calling Trump's new dollar. President Trump himself called it a big innovation and said that this new dollar represents American brilliance at its best. So, if you have any old U.S. dollars in your bank account, you need to pay close attention because, according to Bloomberg, Trump's new dollar could completely shake up the U.S. financial system. Forbes wrote an article saying it could even partially replace conventional bank deposits. That's right. I'm talking about your money in checking and savings accounts. The CEO of Chase, the largest bank in America, recently promised that the bank is getting ready to adopt this innovation, and he's not alone. The CEO of Bank of America, the second largest bank in the U.S., has confirmed the bank is also moving forward with it. Bloomberg recently reported, and I quote, Citigroup is considering Trump's new dollar, positioning the company as a possible early mover in this adoption trend. That's the third largest bank in America. Wells Fargo, the fourth largest bank in the U.S., and U.S. Bancorp, the fifth largest bank in America, are also all planning to adopt this new dollar. So, if you have a checking or savings account with any of those banks, keep watching because I'm about to explain what this means for your money and how it could impact your wealth. The reality is Trump's new law is creating a huge opportunity for everyday Americans. According to recent congressional hearings, the market for Trump's new dollar could see growth of up to 1,900% by 2030. Now that's enough to grow a $10,000 investment into $200,000. And I believe this is going to happen very fast. Now that this new law has established this new currency as a legal form of payment, I believe adoption is about to go through the roof. Billionaire venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya has said usage of this currency will be the big trend in 2025. And he predicted that the size of this market could quadruple or quintuple by the end of the year. And that's why I recorded this briefing. As you're about to see, this is a $21 trillion investment opportunity. And if you know what to do, you could come out of this historic shift wealthier than ever. And no, I'm not talking about gold, central bank digital currency, the Bitcoin, or anything you might have heard before. Instead, it's a new currency that has been called the future of money. This new cutting-edge dollar is so revolutionary that it could even help President Trump save our nation from a debt crisis and prevent America from losing its reserve currency status. As Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, Trump's new dollar could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. And look, as a former tech executive and prolific angel investor, I have a lot of my own money and assets tied to the old U.S. dollar. So I already started to prepare for this paradigm shift. No matter how much money you have, I believe every American should prepare for what I believe will be the biggest change to our financial system in 54 years. So in the next few minutes, I'll tell you the steps you need to take to potentially come out of this shift with the biggest gains of your life. But before I give you all the details, please let me introduce myself. My name is Jeff Brown, and I'm a former senior executive at three major public tech companies, Qualcomm, NXP Semiconductors, and Juniper Networks. These three firms now generate more than $50 billion in annual sales. I'm also an angel investor who has invested in hundreds of deals involving private tech companies with returns as high as 5,344%, 3,900%, and even a mind-blowing 11,011%. And because of my tech expertise, I've advised senior officials of the Department of Commerce, policymakers, members of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the Defense Intelligence Agency. And thanks to all that experience, I've been able to see some of the biggest paradigm shifts in the technology of the past 2 decades, way before those trends became mainstream. For example, back in 2015, most people thought Bitcoin was a scam or just some kind of magic internet money. The Wall Street Journal even published a piece saying that the fair price of Bitcoin is zero. And shortly after that article was published, I wrote this write-up that we see on the screen, encouraging people to buy Bitcoin because I knew we were dealing with a technological paradigm shift. Bitcoin was trading for just $240 back then. And anyone who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn just $1,000 into almost $500,000. And those who invested $5,000 could have made $2.5 million if they held on. The following year, I spotted another major tech paradigm shift. In February of 2016, when almost nobody was talking about artificial intelligence, I picked NVIDIA as one of my favorite stocks because of its dominant position in graphics processing units, or GPUs, which are the chips that are powering today's AI revolution. NVIDIA went from a little-known company to the most valuable company in history and arguably the most popular stock in the world. Shares have jumped by more than 27,000% since then. Now, that's enough to turn $1,000 into $277,000, or $10,000 into almost $3 million. In 2018, I also saw a paradigm shift in transportation and predicted Elon Musk would trigger a revolution with his self-driving Teslas. Now, back then, most people thought self-driving cars were just science fiction. The media was calling Elon Musk a fraud, and Wall Street analysts were predicting Tesla was about to crash. Virtually everyone thought shares of Tesla were overpriced because they were analyzing it as a car company. But here's what I told my readers in 2018. When I think about Tesla, I see one of the leading artificial intelligence companies in the world. This is the incredible part that most don't see or understand. Tesla designed a software AI platform designed to operate cars. Now, what has happened since then? Well, the Tesla Model Y has become the best-selling vehicle in the entire world. Not the best electric vehicle, but the best of any kind of passenger vehicle in the world. And Elon Musk has launched his robotaxi network in Austin, Texas. And it's blowing everyone's mind because it can safely drive you with no intervention and no one sitting behind the steering wheel. And even more incredible, Tesla recently completed its first fully autonomous delivery to a customer. A Tesla Model Y literally drove itself off the factory floor of Tesla's Gigafactory in Austin, Texas, across surface roads, across miles of highways, and through a residential neighborhood with no one in the car. I predict by 2026, these self-driving cars with nobody at the steering wheel will be all over the country. And that's why instead of crashing like the media was predicting, shares of Tesla have jumped 2,150% from 2018 to its peak in 2024. And those who listened to me and held on had a chance to turn $1,000 into up to $22,500. Now, I'm telling you all of this, not to brag, but because I want you to understand that when it comes to big technological shifts, I do have a track record of seeing them before they hit the mainstream media. Now, most Americans have no clue of what's happening. They're unaware of the signs that I'm seeing, that the US dollar in its current form is about to be replaced by a new digital currency. So I created this briefing to help you prepare for what I believe will be the biggest change to our financial system in 54 years. And like I said earlier, if you know what to do, you could walk away from this shift with some of the biggest gains of your life. And it's all thanks to that law that Trump just signed. It sets the legal framework for this new dollar to be widely adopted. And with this new law, the U.S. government is essentially telling every person and every business in America that Trump's new dollar is a new form of legal payment. And that's why the Wall Street Journal predicted that this new law could unleash a wave of innovation like the one the 1996 Telecommunications Act fostered for the internet. This is a very big deal because that 1996 Telecom Act essentially set the legal framework for the development of the internet itself. enabling phone and cable companies to offer broadband services that greatly accelerated the adoption of the internet. This triggered a historic melt-up in the small companies that were building the web infrastructure, and anyone who bought the right stocks had a chance to get rich. For example, in the late 1990s, had you invested just $1,000, you could have cashed out with more than $155,000 in shares of network testing company Viavi Solutions, more than $183,000 in shares of QLogic, and almost $200,000 in Veritas Software, all in just a few years. Just like that telecom law unleashed an internet revolution in the late 1990s, I believe this Trump new law will unleash a $21 trillion money revolution. And as President Trump said, this new dollar is the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. And that's where the opportunity comes in. You see, this is such a monumental project that President Trump is not going to be able to implement this alone. He's going to need help from the private sector. And there's only a handful of tech companies that have the expertise necessary to help him execute his plan. Now, as this new dollar begins to go mainstream, I believe shares of some of these companies will skyrocket to new highs. In fact, it has already started. And in anticipation of this historic paradigm shift in our financial system, shares of some of these companies have already begun to explode higher this year, for gains as high as 109%, 253%, and 694%, all in just a couple of months. Now, these were all market-beating returns, and I believe it's just the beginning. Remember, congressional hearings are projecting growth of 1,900% for Trump's new dollar. Now, as you're about to see, that could be a very conservative estimate. The famous tech-centric investment management firm ARK Investment recently put out a note to its clients saying, "We believe Trump's new dollar is poised for exponential growth." Now, most people don't understand how exponential growth works. So take a look at these two lines. One is linear and the other is exponential. Linear growth is like adding $1 to your bank account every day. So your money piles up slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. It could take decades for you to build real wealth. Now, exponential growth is like your dollar doubling every day. So your savings grow super fast through a series of doublings, 1, 2, 4, 8, and so on. Linear adds a little at a time, consistently. Exponential growth appears to start slow, and then it hits an inflection point where each doubling results in massive increases. And that's why you need to act fast here. With this exponential growth, by the time most people realize what's happening with the US dollar, it will be too late, and the chance to profit big will be gone forever. Now that we have the legal framework in place with this new law, I believe Trump's new dollar is about to go mainstream, starting first with banks and financial institutions and then retailers around the country. In fact, companies like AMC Theaters, Gucci, and Shopify have already begun to accept it as a form of payment. And that's why consulting firm McKinsey recently published a report saying 2025 could be an inflection point for Trump's new dollar. And they said every business must make urgent preparations for this innovation. Now, if you want a chance to make the biggest gains, you must act fast because, as I'm about to show you, as soon as October 28th, I'm expecting a big announcement from a company that I believe will expose Trump's dollar to 434 million consumers and businesses around the world. Now, I highly recommend you act before this becomes breaking news. And that's why I spent the last few months researching this opportunity, and I found the top 3 companies that I believe will lead this $21 trillion financial revolution. Now, I'm about to give you all the details on these 3 explosive opportunities because I believe these companies are perfectly positioned to cash in on this new currency. And it's projected 1,900% growth. You see, Trump's new dollar is powered by bleeding-edge technology that will allow people and companies to transfer money instantaneously around the world without banks or money transfer companies charging you extra fees. It's just a much better version of the US dollar for payments and settlements. As the Wall Street Journal says, with Trump's new dollar, settlements can clear within seconds versus hours or sometimes days with the traditional banking system. It also has lower transaction fees than US dollar fiat credit cards, wire transfers, and other payment networks. By design, transaction costs are a fraction of fiat currency transactions, and settlements are nearly instantaneous. Now, according to some estimates, transactions with Trump's new dollar could be at least 10 times cheaper and potentially 100 times faster. And that's a big reason why I'm expecting an explosion in adoption. Now, look, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that when a better product comes along, it should dominate the market. For example, when the iPhone came along, it dominated the smartphone market because it was simply a much better product than a BlackBerry, a Motorola, or a Nokia cell phone. When Netflix came along, it dominated the video rental industry because it offered a far more convenient product than Blockbuster. When Tesla came along, it dominated the EV market because it offered a much better car than any other electric car at the time. And now, Teslas can drive themselves. That's the same type of disruption that I believe we're about to see. But this time, we're talking about the US dollar. Now, it's something that impacts all 347 million Americans, and it doesn't get bigger than that. Once adoption takes off, I fully expect us to soon be using Trump's new dollar for day-to-day purchases. Yes, I'm talking about going to Starbucks and buying coffee with this new currency. And if you think that's crazy, remember that a few businesses are already accepting Trump's new dollar, including Shopify, which is the #1 e-commerce platform in the US. Now, most people don't know this, but Shopify has a massive reach. Just to give you an idea, 1 in 6 internet users worldwide purchased something from a Shopify merchant's online store in 2024. 1 in 6. That's almost 1 billion people who could potentially begin to purchase things using Trump's new dollar. And I believe that is just the beginning. Like I mentioned before, the 5 biggest banks in America are already planning to embrace this new dollar because they understand it is the future of money. In fact, during a recent earnings conference call, someone asked Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, if he would adopt this new form of currency. You know what he said? He said he had to. He said he can't afford to stay on the sidelines. They can't stop this trend of innovation. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo, they all understand if they don't adopt this new dollar, they will be left behind. And it's not just the banks. Payment giants like Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe are also getting involved. Trump's new dollar is also becoming very popular in Silicon Valley. And according to Forbes, banks and fintechs are rapidly adopting Trump's new dollar, and now big tech firms are poised to do the same. Apple, xAI, Airbnb, and Google are all holding early conversations about it. Even big retailers like Walmart and Amazon are also exploring Trump's new dollar. Now, I am telling you, now that President Trump signed this new law making this currency a legal form of money, I believe this new dollar is about to spread like wildfire. Those who don't act now will be left behind. And that's why, in just a moment, I'll give you more details on the 3 companies that I believe will help Trump execute this plan and promote the adoption of this new American dollar. But before we get to that, first, I think it's important that you understand the reason behind this financial innovation and why President Trump is planning to replace the old dollar with this new currency. Yes, it is a much better payment system. And yes, it's a more technologically advanced version of the dollar that will speed up transactions and lower fees for everyone. And I believe it's going to make a lot of people rich. But this isn't just an investment opportunity. It's actually a much bigger story because I believe Trump's new dollar will also help save America from a major debt crisis and prevent us from losing our global reserve currency status. And to truly understand what's happening, I do need to take you back to 1944. You see, towards the end of World War II, delegates from 44 nations created a new international monetary system known as the Bretton Woods system. It placed the dollar at the center of global finance because nations had to settle their international trades in U.S. dollars. And that's how the U.S. currency became the world's #1 reserve currency. In short, that Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 made the dollar the anchor of the international monetary system, giving America immense influence over global trade and finance. And because countries had to hold dollars as reserves, that agreement created a guaranteed demand for U.S. dollar and U.S. treasuries. And it's a big reason why America became the world's #1 superpower. The problem is that the U.S. government has been abusing that privilege for decades now. And thanks to the reckless fiscal policy from the Biden administration, U.S. debt has exploded in recent years and is now quickly approaching $40 trillion. That's bigger than the entire size of our economy by a wide margin. That is a major problem. Now, U.S. Treasuries have long been considered a safe asset because the risk of default was very low. But during the Biden administration, our risk profile changed dramatically. Investors around the world watched our debt explode higher, and they're now demanding to get paid a much higher yield. They're basically telling our government, okay, I'll buy your treasury bonds and help you finance your debt, but this isn't risk-free anymore. You have so much debt that you need to pay me a higher interest payment to offset that increased risk of default. Now, that's why interest rates are now well above 4%. Just take a look at this. U.S. interest expenses on U.S. Treasuries have skyrocketed because of these higher rates. Our federal government is now paying more than $1 trillion in interest payments alone. And in recent years, countries around the world also began to dump the U.S. dollar in a disturbing trend called de-dollarization. According to the economist Peter St. Onge, under the Biden administration, countries were de-dollarizing 10 times faster than the previous 2 decades. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means instead of buying U.S. Treasury bonds and helping us finance our debt, many countries decided to invest elsewhere, away from the U.S. dollar. Now, if that trend of de-dollarization continued, it could be the end of America and our standard of living. And that's why President Trump is now taking drastic measures to prevent that from happening. And his plan involves this radical new currency that many experts believe could save America from a debt crisis. You see, this past March, President Trump held a summit with his entire cabinet, and he announced his plan to save the dollar from losing its world reserve status by releasing a new, more technologically advanced U.S. dollar. And his Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said during that summit, we are going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use Trump's new dollar to do that. Forbes even called this plan the new Bretton Woods and said that it could change how money is perceived, used, and valued. Now remember, Bretton Woods was the agreement that established the U.S. dollar as the #1 global reserve currency. Now, America would not have become an economic superpower without that agreement. And now, more than 80 years later, President Trump is giving us essentially a new Bretton Woods, but there is a big difference this time. The original Bretton Woods only involved a handful of governments, so there was no way for everyday folks to profit from that financial shift. Now, this new Bretton Woods is not an agreement among multiple nations. This time, President Trump is using technology in the private sector to completely reshape our financial system. And there are a few tech companies that can help President Trump execute this plan. So if you know which ones, you could walk away with massive gains. And that's especially true now that President Trump recently signed this new law called the Genius Act. Now, it stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins, and it sets up the legal framework for this new currency that's far more advanced than the old paper US dollar. Now, it's a new digital dollar that's built on the blockchain, but that's vastly different from Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies because it comes with much less volatility than other cryptocurrencies. It is designed to hold a steady value. It's essentially a digital substitute for cash, but it's not issued by a central authority like a central bank. So this is completely different from central bank digital currencies. They are issued by private entities like certain banks, credit unions, and fintech companies. And just like the original Bretton Woods required nations to hold US dollars, any issuer of stablecoins will have to hold US dollars, mostly in the form of US Treasury bonds. Now, let me repeat that because this is the critical part of this story. Thanks to this new law just signed by President Trump, any financial institution that issues this new digital dollar will have to buy U.S. Treasury bonds, creating a guaranteed demand for U.S. government bonds. Now, Treasury Secretary Bessent estimates this could create up to $3.7 trillion of demand for treasuries by the end of this decade. Now, that is a huge deal because it means America no longer needs to depend on foreign creditors like Japan and China to finance U.S. debt. Now, even the mainstream media, which normally hates Trump, cannot deny the simple fact that Trump's new dollar could save America from a debt crisis. Even Reuters wrote, the greenback supremacy may be strengthening because of an entirely different monetary innovation, Trump's new dollar. Now, that means if you invest in this hot new trend now, you'll be not only supporting this plan to save America, but you could also walk away with huge gains. You see, President Trump will need help from the private sector to implement this plan because only companies that operate in the digital currency space have the expertise necessary to build the infrastructure that will allow the wide adoption of this new currency. And like I mentioned before, some of the tech companies operating in this sector are already exploding higher for gains as high as 109%, 253%, and 694%, all in just a couple of months. Now, think about that. Normally, it takes many years for you to see these kinds of triple-digit gains in the stock market, but this is all happening in a matter of months. These big, fast gains are happening because the market for Trump's new dollar is projected to grow exponentially. It's even projected to grow faster than artificial intelligence, which I think everyone knows is the hottest trend on the planet right now. Now, I know that's hard to believe, but it's actually true. It's projected to grow more than 3 times faster than AI in the coming years, and that makes it one of the fastest growing sectors on the planet. I believe that pace of growth will only accelerate with this new law President Trump just signed. You see, many big companies like Amazon and Walmart have been sitting on the sidelines just waiting for this new currency to actually become a legal form of payment. So now that we have this legal framework in place, I believe adoption is about to explode higher, faster than anyone can imagine. And at the same time, we're still very early on this trend. So take a look at this. Trump's new dollar accounts for only 1% of the U.S. money supply. Now, look, if you want to make an investment that has the potential to change your financial trajectory, you need 2 things. First, you need to find a trend that's projected to have exponential growth. And second, and this is important, you need to get into that trend early while the industry is still small. That's it. It's that simple. You do that, and you'll set yourself up for massive potential gains. For example, in early 2001, NVIDIA, it reported growth of almost 100% in sales. It had just developed the world's first GPU called GeForce 256. It was a major leap in chip technology and set NVIDIA on a path to dominate the GPU market, which are the chips that power artificial intelligence. It was beginning to see exponential growth, but at that time, NVIDIA was still a small company that most people had never heard of. It was still very early in the trend of AI. Anyone who invested $1,000 in NVIDIA at that time could have turned that small stake into more than $869,000 today. That's an entire nest egg for most of America, and all from just a single stock, starting with just a tiny stake of $1,000. Or look at Amazon, for example. In 1997, it was still the early days of the internet and e-commerce. But as the internet began to grow exponentially, shares took off. Anyone who invested $1,000 at the end of 1997 had a chance to turn that small stake into as much as almost $1 million. Or let's look at Tesla. In 2012, Tesla introduced its all-electric luxury sedan, Tesla Model S, which redefined what an electric vehicle could do. With the new revolutionary car, sales were about to grow exponentially, but it was still early in the EV trend. Anyone who invested $1,000 back then could have grown that small stake into as much as $136,000 today. Now, the bottom line is, when you combine explosive growth with a tech trend that's just getting started, all bets are off. The gains could be extraordinary. Now, I believe that's the opportunity that we have with Trump's new dollar. And like I showed you earlier, it's projected to grow 1,900% by 2030, which is 3 times faster than AI. But it still accounts for only 1% of the U.S. money supply. So there is still a lot of upside potential here. Like I mentioned earlier, that type of growth would be enough to turn $10,000 into $200,000. But with the adoption set to go parabolic, if you want a chance to see big gains, you will need to act fast. Remember, I'm expecting a big announcement as soon as October 28th. I'm expecting a big announcement from a company that I believe will expose Trump's dollar to 434 million consumers and businesses around the world, including businesses like Amazon, Airbnb, American Airlines, Netflix, HP, and Disney. And that means any of these companies could soon begin to accept this new digital dollar as a form of payment, setting a new standard of payment for the entire digital economy. So I hope you're seeing this message on time, because once that announcement happens, I believe this market will take off and never look back. And the good news is this company is just one of the top 3 I found in this space. These are stocks that you can buy from any regular brokerage account, and I believe these companies are perfectly positioned to cash in on this explosive new trend, which is why I put all the details inside a brand new report called Trump's New Dollar, the Top 3 Companies for the $21 trillion Financial Revolution. And inside, I'll tell you more about this new digital currency, and you'll get the names of these companies, ticker symbols, and, of course, my full analysis. And I'd like to give you access to this report right now, because we have no time to waste. And here's the good news for you. I actually want to give you this report completely free of charge. All I ask in return is that you try out my monthly research service called the Near Future Report for the next 60 days at no risk to you. The Near Future Report is where I publish many of my best investment ideas every month. And I call it Near Future because the future is coming much, much faster than we think. Technology is moving so fast that it's really hard for most to keep up. I'm sure you've noticed it. By the time we hear about it from the mainstream media, it's already too late. Shares have already popped. I mean, did anyone tell you to invest in Bitcoin in 2015? How about investing in NVIDIA in early 2016 and Tesla in April of 2018? I doubt it. And yet I made all those recommendations to my readers. Most people missed out on those big moves because by the time you hear about these paradigm tech shifts, it's simply too late. But my readers had a chance to get in all those trends early, and that is my mission. In the pages of the Near Future Report, my goal is to help you identify and potentially profit from big trends on the verge of mass adoption before they become breaking news on mainstream media. Now, you should also know that I am 100% only beholden to our readers. Our business is entirely based on membership fees from our readers. And that means that our business model only works if we show you how to make money. And my track record, it's not perfect because no one is perfect, but we've done a pretty good job so far. For example, recently I was literally out in the middle of a desert kicking rocks, researching a company. And that research gave me the information and confidence to tell my readers to buy shares of a company called MP Materials because it was mining critical minerals for the development of AI and, of course, the U.S. military. Now, here's a short clip about that recommendation. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the government even decides to invest directly in this company. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum has confirmed that the Trump administration is considering making an equity investment in each of these companies that's taking on China in critical minerals. Now, what do you think is going to happen to its shares of the company if the government announces an investment? You don't have to be a genius to know shares will likely go a lot higher. And just a few days later, the Department of Defense announced a $400 million investment in MP Materials, and shares popped as much as 50% on that day as the news shocked everyone but my readers. Shares kept going higher, giving my readers a chance to more than double their money in just a couple of weeks. And aside from showing you early stage trends and giving you a chance to get ahead of everyone else, like what happened with MP Materials, in the pages of the Near Future Report, I'll also help you navigate the ups and downs of the stock market. For example, on March 17th, 2020, amidst peak pandemic hysteria, I called the bottom of the stock market with almost perfect timing. I told my readers, things are absolutely going to get better. This will probably be one of the best opportunities to make investments over the course of the next decade. 3 days later, the stock market began a historic bounce back. And since then, the S&P 500 has more than doubled. But some of my picks from my model portfolio, they jumped much higher. If you had held on past their original recommendations and sold at their peak, you could have made as much as 3,424% in NVIDIA. Arista Networks, as much as 1,038%. Palo Alto Networks, 756%. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, 494%. Now, these were obviously all market-beating gains by a very wide margin. Remember, you can try the Near Future Report for the next 60 days with no risk to you, and when you do, I will immediately send you the special report, Trump's New Dollar, the top 3 companies for the $21 trillion financial revolution, completely free of charge. Now look, like I showed you before, my readers already had a chance to turn $1,000 into $22,500 in Tesla, $277,000 in NVIDIA, and $491,000 in Bitcoin. So even if I charge $10,000 for a membership, I think it would be well worth it. But here's the good news for you. I'm not publishing my research for the benefit of rich institutional investors. I'm publishing it for everyday folks like you. And for that reason, it won't cost anywhere near $10,000. Now, normally a 1-year membership to the Near Future Report costs $499, but it gets even better. Now, since this is an urgent opportunity that we'll likely never see again, I don't want you to miss out because of the price. So I'm going to give you a special discount. That's right. Now, you won't even have to pay the retail price. But before I give you the details, I would like to give you access to 3 more special reports and even more explosive opportunities. So bonus report number 1 is called The Moonshot Play, How to 7x Your Money with Trump's New Dollar. You see, as a digital currency, Trump's New Dollar is built on blockchain technology, the same technology behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. And in this report, I will tell you about a tiny blockchain project that's perfect for this new currency boom. And I believe the gains could be mind-blowing. So just look at what happened during Trump's first term. Back in 2017, his inauguration kicked off a crypto boom of biblical proportions, giving everyday folks a chance to turn just $1,000 into as much as $38,310 in Monero, $384,690 in Stellar, and an even mind-blowing $1 $0.02 million in Redcoin, all in less than 12 months. Now, I believe we're now witnessing the beginning of another historic boom because now President Trump is 100% behind crypto. And he has promised to make America the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Wow. But I believe the biggest gains will not come from Bitcoin. I believe it will come from a cryptocurrency project that will give you direct exposure to the stablecoin market. It provides the infrastructure that allows folks to borrow and lend money using Trump's new dollar. So as this new currency begins to go mainstream, I expect this play to explode high enough to 4x your money in the next 12 months and 7x in the longer run. Now, no wonder the Trump-linked firm World Liberty Financial has recently invested in it. And inside this report, you'll find the name, the ticker symbol, and the step-by-step instructions on how to buy it. And that's just the first bonus report. The second bonus report I want to give you access to is called The Robotic Renaissance: How to Profit from Trump's $12 trillion Manufacturing Revolution. Now, it's no secret that Trump wants to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and I believe his policies will spark the biggest industrial boom in American history, and that could unlock $12 trillion in new wealth. And I believe one AI company could go parabolic during this new boom. And no, I'm not talking about NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, or any of these other popular AI stocks. Those are all old news. You see, for years, AI has mostly been invisible. It was just software powering things like search engines and chatbots. But now we're moving into the next phase of this AI boom, what I call manifested AI. The AI is no longer operating only in the digital world. It's now manifesting into the real one, powering physical things through automation. And that's why the CEO of NVIDIA said the ChatGPT moment for robotics is coming. Manifested AI will bring about the next industrial revolution. Now, I'm talking about the physical embodiment of artificial intelligence, but not just the rigid single-arm, single-task robots that we've seen in car factories for decades. I'm talking about intelligent, vision-guided humanoids that can work side by side with humans, adapt on the fly, learn by doing, and even make decisions in real time. Now, I'll tell you, most people think that that's many years away, but a few hundred of Elon Musk's humanoid Optimus robots are already walking factory floors and Tesla offices in Fremont, California. Now, Elon expects to have thousands of those robots working at Tesla factories by the end of this year. Now, I believe factory work is just the beginning. I expect that once these robots are trained well enough to move and behave like humans, once they've been optimized and can avoid glitches, they'll begin to hit homes across the United States. Now, I know a lot of people still believe that this is just science fiction and it will never happen. They can't imagine a world where millions of robots are just walking among us. I believe those people are making a very big mistake, and they will end up missing out on the biggest consumer product of this century. And it's not just me saying that. According to Goldman Sachs, humanoid robots could become the next must-have device, just like smartphones. Imagine having a butler that's smarter than any human on the planet, one that can teach your children and grandchildren better than any school teacher, one that could instantly answer any question you might have about anything, one that could also do any tasks around the house, wash the dishes, do laundry, mow the lawn. That is Elon's vision. Elon predicted that in the future, everyone will want to own one of these Tesla robots. He said, "We expect to scale Optimus up faster than any product in history, and he believes it will become the biggest product ever of any kind." I believe he's right, and it's why I'm extremely bullish on Tesla right now. But aside from Tesla, I'm also recommending shares of another smaller Elon Musk supplier. This little-known company is already supplying Tesla with a key piece of sensor technology. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up supplying Optimus with those sensors as well. In fact, Morgan Stanley just recommended this stock as one of the key ways to play this robotics trend. And guess what? They're not alone. While most people are in the dark, more than 700 hedge funds are investing in this little-known stock. And I don't want you to be left out, which is why the moment you join the Near Future Report, you will gain access to this bonus report called The Robotic Renaissance: How to Profit from Trump's $12 trillion manufacturing revolution. And that's not all. When you join the Near Future Report, I'll also give you access to another bonus report with one more explosive Elon Musk opportunity. It's called Elon Musk's Silent Partner: How to Profit from His New $9 trillion revolution. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Elon recently launched his robotaxi network in Austin, Texas. Now, that's just the first step for a nationwide rollout. Soon, I believe these self-driving cars with no one at the steering wheel will be everywhere. Now, Elon believes his robotaxi network could create more than $9 trillion in value. That's $9 trillion with a T. That's nearly 6 times more money than the market caps of Tesla, SpaceX, PayPal, Neuralink, and xAI combined. So inside this report, I'll tell you about an Elon Musk partner that I believe will play a critical role in this robotaxi rollout. You see, Tesla cars, they have 8 cameras that operate as the eyes of the AI. And these cameras are constantly sending massive amounts of data to the car's central computer, and that data, it needs to be processed in real time. The computer needs to be able to make millions of real-time, split-second decisions to make sure that the car drives itself safely to its destination. Now, Teslas are only able to do that because of this memory chip that I'm holding in my hand. And right now, you can invest in this technology. All you need to do is buy shares of the little-known Elon Musk supplier that makes this chip. Now, this isn't a well-known company like NVIDIA, and most people have never heard of it. And if you go through Tesla's latest annual report and look for the name of this company, you simply won't find it. But you'll find all the details inside this special report called Elon Musk's Silent Partner: How to Profit from His New $9 trillion Revolution. Again, all these reports are yours free when you join the Near Future Report. So here's the deal. Like I mentioned earlier, the normal price for a 1-year membership is $499. But today, you will get a huge discount. You can begin your risk-free membership for just $179. Remember, I'm not even asking for any type of long-term commitment. You can just try it out and decide later if it's right for you. I'll give you 60 days to test out the service at no risk, and if, during that period, you find that you're not getting the best tech investing research you've ever seen, or for any reason at all, you can simply call our member services team and cancel your membership. We'll give you a full refund on your order, no questions asked. And we'll even let you keep everything you received as a member at no charge. That's right. You can keep all of the issues. You can keep all these special reports that you see on your screen. You can keep everything. And that means that there's no risk to you at all for this offer. And to get started, simply click on the button below. You'll be taken to another page where you can review everything one last time. And remember, we're at the ground floor of what I believe will be the biggest change to our financial system in the last 54 years. But if you want a chance to see the biggest possible gains, you do need to get in now, before adoption goes mainstream. By the time most Americans understand what's happened, the transformation will be complete. And thanks to President Trump, the dollar will remain the world's reserve currency, but in a radically new form, controlled by different powers and operating on a digital infrastructure. We are at the very early stages of a $21 trillion financial revolution. With this new law Trump just signed, adoption is about to explode. The size of the market for this new currency is already projected to grow 3 times faster than AI, and soon you, me, and all 300 plus million Americans could be using this new dollar for everyday purchases. Amazon and Walmart have confirmed that they're planning to adopt this new digital currency, and as soon as October 28th, I'm expecting a big announcement from a company that I believe will expose Trump's dollar to 434 million consumers and businesses around the world, including businesses like Amazon, Airbnb, American Airlines, Netflix, HP, and even Disney. That announcement could send the plays that I'm recommending skyrocketing higher. And if you wait, you could miss out on the biggest possible gains. Now, I already showed you what happened to Tesla. It went up as high as 2,100% in the years after I recommended it. Anyone who waited, they missed out on those big gains. The same thing happened with NVIDIA. It went up as high as 27,000% since I recommended it back in early 2016. Again, anyone who waited missed out on those massive gains. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. It went up more than 45,000% after I recommended it. And anyone who waited missed out on those incredible gains. So please don't make that mistake. Click on the button below to get started. And look, if you're still not sure the Near Future Report is right for you, let me share a few emails I got from my readers, and maybe that will help you decide. Tim says, Jeff, I've been investing and working in the technology industry since 1985. Your insight and experience is easily the best I've ever read. I am in my first year with you and have made good money with your recommendations. Thank you. Ruan says, I've been a loyal subscriber for some time now and greatly admire and appreciate the work you do to bring us readers such quality recommendations. Your newsletters are well worth their weight in gold. And Leonard says, just wanted you all to know that this is the most trustworthy news and picks I ever came across. Hands down, my portfolio is nothing now but Jeff's picks, and I am very pleased with how they are performing. The best newsletter published, period. Keep up the great work. Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. And you could be the next success story. So please, click on that button to get started. And now I know I've covered a lot of ground, so I just want to show you one more time everything that you get when you join me today. 12 months of my best investment ideas. Every month, you'll get a brand new issue of the Near Future Report with my top way of playing AI, blockchain technology, robotics, self-driving cars, and all the most exciting tech trends of our time. The main report, Trump's new dollar, the top 3 companies for the $21 trillion financial revolution. I'll give you all the details on these explosive opportunities that are setting up the infrastructure for Trump's new dollar to go mainstream. Bonus report number 1, the moonshot play, how to 7x your money with Trump's new dollar. Now, I believe this blockchain platform that's directly tied to Trump's new dollar could help 4x your money in the next 12 months and 7x in the long run. Bonus report number 2, the robotic renaissance, how to profit from Trump's $12 trillion manufacturing revolution. I'll tell you about a little-known company that I believe could explode higher as Elon begins to roll out his Optimus robot. Bonus report number 3, Elon Musk's silent partner, how to profit from his new $9 trillion revolution. Inside, I'll tell you about a company that could help Elon unlock $9 trillion in new wealth with his robotaxi network. And aside from all these special reports, you'll also get full 24/7 access to our members-only website. And that's where you can access all the issues, all the special reports, video updates, and our model portfolio, where you can see all the current open positions. And you'll get full support from my team. So please feel free to call or email them with any help that you need with your membership. But please remember that they cannot offer personalized investment advice. Now remember, I'm not even asking you to make any long-term commitment. Today, you can try the Near Future Report at 0 risk to you for your membership because you have 60 days to decide. So click on that button to get started. You really have nothing to lose. If you get my research and don't like what you see, that's okay. No worries. I'll give you your money back, let you keep everything, and we'll part as friends. And I'm sure you'll make the right decision for you and your loved ones. I want to thank you for watching my presentation, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Near Future Report. Thanks for watching, and remember, we have so much to look forward to.